Chaos, tears, and shocking twists, MasterChef has seen it all. Let's count down to the 20 most dramatic moments that left everyone speechless. Just like this time when tension soared, egos collided, and chaos unfolded thanks to one contestant. One episode that really highlighted contestants' I'm better than everyone vibe was episode 16 of MasterChef Season 7. The contestants got a mystery box filled with fancy ingredients, but hold up, there was more to it than just that.
Anything that a chef could dream of working with. Grab up to 20 ingredients to make anything you want.
Nice.
The whole pantry. David was super fueled.
20 ingredients, not 21. Oh, Lord.
David landed in the top 3 alongside Sean and Brandy, but when Sean took the win, it really lit a fire under him. His frustration was obvious as he headed into the elimination challenge, and you could feel the tension building up.
Sean made ravioli in the previous challenge. I just want to show the judges that he's not the only one that can make great handmade pasta.
Well, David and the others rushed to grab their chosen ingredients, the tension thick in the air. But just as they were about to dive into cooking, Gordon Ramsay slammed on the brakes with a sudden halt.
All of you, stop there. Come on. We're never gonna make an elimination challenge that easy.
Cue the dramatic pause, and the whole room is on edge. Then, Christina Tosi steps in with a twist that would throw everything off. Sure, they each picked their 20 ingredients, but what they didn't know was that they weren't going to be using their own baskets.
Tonight, you will each be cooking with someone else's dream basket.
David's face was priceless, as Christina spelled it out for them. You could see the shock and frustration start to creep in. He definitely wasn't expecting that twist.
And those ingredients you just picked out could soon be someone else's nightmare.
And who would decide whose ingredients went to whom? None other than Sean, the guy who had just snagged the win and was safe from elimination. Talk about adding insult to injury.
I am pumped right now. I am in complete control. I get to throw everybody off their game.
Sean was on a roll, and you could see the mischief in his eyes as he walked over to David's station.
David, what's up, Vegas? Got some shrimp, crab, flour. Got some parm in here.
David, already looking irritated, had put together a stellar basket of ingredients, everything you'd expect from someone as confident in their skills as he was. But that's exactly why Sean was itching to mess with him. And sure enough, the chaos started as soon as Sean grabbed David's basket.
This one is actually a good basket.
Obviously.
Then Sean's gaze landed on Dan's basket. Now, Dan? He hadn't exactly put together the most cohesive mix of ingredients. It was a bit all over the place, which, of course, made it prime for Sean to snag.
I got some rice, I got some ginger, and a lot of other surprises.
Sure, it was a strange assortment, but Dan did have a lot of ingredients in there. Hold up, quite a lot, but the real kicker? That was still to come.
Is this some packaged smoked trout, Dan? Is this your only protein?
Yep.
Oh, you made my job easy.
There was only one protein. One sad, lonely piece of protein. Sean's grin spread like wildfire because he knew exactly who was gonna suffer the most with that basket. And yeah, I think you know who that was too.
It's a pretty bleak basket. There's not a lot in there. This one's going to David.
Why target David though? Simple. Sean, being the strategist he was, knew David was a strong competitor, but he also knew David had a temper that could send him spiraling. The plan? Push David just far enough that he couldn't recover. And the second Sean left that basket on David's counter, it was clear, mission accomplished.
I knew that. Why you wouldn't give it to Brandy?
I know David gets easily frustrated.
He called it strategy, but David wasn't in the mood for games. He looked at the basket, then at Sean, like someone had just played a cruel prank on him. And to be fair, that's kind of exactly what had happened. That's when the fireworks started. David's frustration went from a simmer to a full-on boil. He didn't even try to hold back.
You don't make a lot of sense, brother. I'm just saying you don't make sense.
As if that wasn't enough, he started blaming Dan for putting together such a ridiculous basket in the first place. Even though it wasn't Dan's fault, he was stuck with it.
Rattled some cages.
No, I mean, this idiot doesn't even get protein, and then I get this, and he up. No, it's
David, you okay?
not at all.
The judges were extremely concerned for him.
Can't function with this.
Cooking angry is not a way.
Ramsay, sensing things were about to go off the rails, stepped in to check on David. But instead of calming down, David went into full meltdown mode. And then came the shocking part. What David did next had never happened before.
Forget it.
He's taking his apron off.
David's walking out.
David,
Yeah, you heard that right. He straight up stormed out of the kitchen in the middle of the competition. Ramsay, ever the wise mentor, tried to stop him. He knew the competition was tough, but he also saw the potential in David. Ramsay wasn't about to let him completely lose it, even though the pressure was clearly getting to him.
In 6 years of working on this competition, nobody's ever quit.
And I've never seen anyone get the shaft like this. This is crazy.
Okay.
Oh God, come on, David. Ramsay's just trying to help, and honestly, he didn't even need to. They could have just let him go, but nope, look at that attitude. After a tense few minutes, David finally pulled himself together, and despite the meltdown, he somehow managed to whip up a dish. And you know what? It wasn't half bad, almost as impressive as his arrogance.
You wasted some time with the sort of personal meltdown that you had over there. I'm a little shocked, to be honest, at first impression.
Take this as a warning, because if you were in my kitchen, you'd be taking a taxi home. This is a kitchen. We have sanitary standards. This is dangerous. You're gonna fall. You're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna hurt me.
And now, let's talk about the absolute messiest contestant ever. This one didn't just cook. They left a trail of chaos like it was their signature dish.
At Astrid Station. Does she cook like that at home?
Astrid kicked things off with a hell of an attitude.
I'm from Louisiana. This is me on a plate with a little bit of Latina.
But despite all the swagger, her dish failed to impress in the first round itself.
You 9, please come down to the front.
Sure, she charmed us with her smile and played nice with the others, but her cooking skills? More like a recipe for disaster. Mistakes? She made plenty.
This is not gonna fly. This is disgusting. This is not how you work in restaurants.
And her hygiene habits? Let's not even go there. No wonder she was among the first to get eliminated.
Here we go. I'm going home. Back to my 4 children in New Orleans.
She came in hot, but not in the kitchen.
Which of us 3 do you challenge?
Astrid. Gordon Ramsay, I respect the hell out of you.
Gotta give her credit though, she had the guts to take on Chef Ramsay like that. This challenge was unlike any other, a real game changer.
Bacon, bell peppers, carrots, shrimp, potatoes, and of course, the most popular protein, chicken.
And what did Astrid do with all those ingredients? She went absolutely wild, throwing peels and scraps everywhere like a full-on food fight. It was a mess, not fun to watch, and downright disgusting. I mean, it seemed like she did it on purpose, like she wanted to make a mess. And then Joe called her out, asking if that was her usual cooking style at home.
Everyone listen up a second. We're not gonna tolerate disgusting working conditions.
He was shocked, and so were the rest of us.
This is a kitchen. We have sanitary standards. This is dangerous. You're gonna fall. You're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna hurt me.
And then Joe had to step in, shutting down the chaos and warning her about her unappetizing working conditions.
I'm embarrassed, but all I know is that right now, Astrid, you've got to focus.
I mean, it was a disaster and nowhere near Michelin star quality, right? But after all the mess, she managed to get the apron. However, Joe wasn't ready to let her off easy. He gave her a stern warning, saying she would have been fired on the spot if it were his restaurant.
Take this as a warning, because if you were in my kitchen, you'd be taking a taxi home.
Joe was ready to put up a fight, that's for sure. But at least she did not react to him, but there were some arrogant contestants. And when things didn't go his way, he'd flip out with violent outbursts that threw everyone off.
Jeff did everything that I hoped he would. He created an awful dish and then tried to BS his way through it.
Should they make the $250,000 out to your therapist or to you? I'm already insured.
In the family challenge, the contestants had to cook a salmon dish, but here's the kicker. Kate, who had won the previous mystery box, had a major advantage. And it was certainly an intriguing turn of events.
At 50 minutes, you'll shout out another name. Same at 40 minutes. Oh, Lord. And then 30.
Yes, you got it. Kate got to assign different time limits to everyone else. How exciting is that, right? Except for one person. The name called last wasn't because they were strong competition. Kate made it crystal clear it was solely because of their bad attitude. And of course, that person was Jeff. He just stood there watching everyone cook for a full 40 minutes until finally this happened.
8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jeff, start shopping!
Whoa. He was finally let to cook, but with the shortest time limit of just 20 minutes. He rushed to the pantry, scrambling to get everything together and make it work. While Jeff was in the pantry, Ramsay, curious as ever, asked the question everyone was wondering. When Kate replied, it was so straightforward that everyone's jaw just hit the floor.
Why 20 minutes to Jeff?
His attitude is poor, so I want to send him home.
And well, she was not wrong at all. Jeff was beyond obnoxious, and it was crystal clear to everyone.
Kate wants me to go home. She's going to fail miserably. Lemon, butter.
But Jeff, bless his delusional heart, made a bold claim that honestly almost made me chuckle. It was just so out there.
Certainly, I am one of the top chefs here. I know I can make a 20-minute dish like no other.
Talk about a major misunderstanding. But one thing I'll give Jeff credit for is how quickly he picked up the pace once his time started. Literally, the guy was like a bullet train speeding through the kitchen.
Let's go!
He only had 15 minutes left when he finally started cooking, and it seemed absolutely impossible for him to pull it off. And when Ramsay went to his station, he was shocked to see how he had planned things.
It's a possibility too, but for right now, I kind of want to play around.
It's not a good idea.
Give us your best shot.
You got it.
Christina was super concerned for Jeff. With only 10 minutes left in the challenge, and Jeff still not even starting to cook his salmon, it was clear he was in his own head. At that point, it was definitely shaping up to be a disaster. Well, however, finally it was time for judgment. Jeff served up a Mediterranean-style salmon with feta cheese and sun-dried tomato relish over an apple and cucumber gratin with cranberry and stout beer. Yeah, all of that in just 20 minutes, and you'd think anyone would be nervous about pulling that off, right? But Jeff? Oh no, he was riding high. And you won't believe just how high he was riding.
I did the best I could with the time that I was given. And at the end of the day, I don't think anyone else could have done better.
Even though Ramsay knew exactly what was about to happen with Jeff's dish, he still gave him the benefit of the doubt. Big mistake. As soon as Jeff cut into the lamb, reality hit hard. Jeff had promised it would be medium rare, but what Ramsay found? Shocking.
Jeff.
That's exactly what I want.
Wait a minute, let's recap. Did Jeff seriously just say this was exactly what he wanted? Was he out of his mind? Ramsay was furious. He couldn't believe what he was hearing, and could not help but ask this.
Jeff.
That's exactly what I want.
Jeff, come on. Are you trying to poison me?
But it wasn't just the salmon, this whole dish was a mess. Jeff had paired cucumber and apple together. No wonder it tasted so weird. Ramsay was left absolutely baffled, trying to figure out how anyone could even think to put those two together. He finally said this.
It's weird. It's like sushi there. The fibers haven't even gone. Look.
Jeff, though? He was still stuck in his delusion, completely oblivious to the disaster he'd created. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, he shocked everyone even more with what he said next.
That's what I was going for. I wanted it to be on the rarer side.
Come on, young man.
Ramsay was absolutely livid watching Jeff defend his dish. It was clear it wasn't sitting right with him, and he wasn't having any of it. But Jeff wasn't backing down, acting like everything was fine. Ramsay wasn't about to let him get away with that delusion, so he made sure to knock him off his high horse.
I felt for you and given 20 minutes. But you're not going to lecture me that that's how you wanted to cook the salmon, because the salmon's raw, Jeff.
Thank you.
That was wild. Kate totally nailed it by giving him just 20 minutes. He was such a pain. And now, even the judges were on her side. You could tell Kate was absolutely loving every second of it.
Jeff did everything that I hoped he would. He created an awful dish and then tried to BS his way through it.
It was pretty obvious that the other contestants weren't exactly his biggest fans. They downright couldn't stand him and his obnoxious attitude. Dino, in particular, had clearly been waiting for the perfect moment to speak up, and today, he finally got his chance. Of course, he kept it playful, but you could tell he was enjoying every second of it.
Were we allowed to make sushi?
No.
It couldn't be raw. Then why do you serve it raw?
Spot on, Dino! But he didn't realize he was pushing Jeff's buttons, and boy did he push them hard. Jeff wasn't having any of it, and came back with a low blow that left everyone completely stunned. The room went silent as they processed just how far he'd gone.
Go make another spaghetti meatball. We're making a spaghetti meatball for your lady tonight. Go yourself.
And hold on, he didn't stop there. Jeff completely lost it and decided to take it a step too far. He started bringing up Dino's personal life, throwing out something that should never have been said, especially not in front of the cameras on a show that's airing for the whole country to see.
Should they make the $250,000 out to your therapist or to you? I'm already insured.
Finally, aside from the raw salmon, Ramsay claimed Jeff's defensive and unteachable attitude ultimately sealed his fate in the competition, and he was sent home in a double elimination. All in all, Jeff was a train wreck of a competitor with his fiery temp. But this next contestant got on everyone's nerves, including the viewers.
The fact that you're not even thinking of playing this game properly is really annoying. If you're here putting your spin on everything you make because you want to show us how cutesy and intelligent and crafty you are, well, that's going to get you a one-way ticket back to wherever you came from.
Ah, Howard, where have you been? See, Howard's cooking skills were more akin to a disaster movie than a cooking masterpiece. I mean, I'm talking about an epic fail, guys.
I don't understand. She's been nice to you, but the whole thing with you is you have this very cavalier attitude. Don't know what you're cooking, what dish you're making with 10 minutes left. And you come up here and get misty-eyed with us like, oh, poor me again, I got screwed up, and I'm getting tired of it.
I'm not one to throw shade, but Howard's cooking game was, well, barely passable.
So, Sear,
Your station looks like a disaster. I'd hate to see you on the bottom here.
No, definitely not.
And it wasn't just a lack of skill. He was also arrogant, condescending, and had a knack for slacking off while his teammates were busting their tails. I mean, he'd swan around the kitchen, acting like he was the next Gordon Ramsay, but his dishes? More like dog food. Maybe worse.
And these kind of dishes are what send you home.
Anyway, the dude was all smiles during team challenges, but when it came to flying solo, his dishes were consistently subpar. I mean, his best efforts looked like the bare minimum. It was like he was phoning it in, expecting everyone to be impressed by his, I don't know, magic powers or something.
Did you disappear into the library for half an hour?
No, I did not.
What is it, please?
I made a citrus salad with a champagne vinaigrette, diced mangoes, sliced grapefruit, and just put the legancine on top.
But as we all know, when people think they've got it in the bag on this show, it's always projection.
I'm blown away. I'm shocked. In fact, I'm not even going to eat it.
He won't even eat it.
Well, Howard thought he had Chrissy's number, but really, he was just projecting his own failures onto her. Chef Ramsay wouldn't even take a bite, and Joe, well, you know he was going to give him a good tongue lashing.
I don't know what to say. You know I'm not a rabbit, and yet you serve me food that's fit for a rabbit hutch. And you expect me to get blown away.
I mean, come on, Howard. You're not fooling anyone with your half-baked dishes and attitude. Joe went off on Howard, reminding him of the lofty standards he'd set with his grandma's cooking.
At this point, if it were up to me, I'd throw you out. I put my ass on the line for you, and that's the you give me?
But things took a turn for the worse when Joe essentially called Howard's dish this.
I went out and told everyone how good you were.
Absolutely.
You're in a landslide. You know, this is a waste of our time.
Huh? A waste of space on the plate? Yeah, Joe was on fire that day, and Howard was on the receiving end of a serious tongue lashing.
If you're having a tough time and it's a meltdown and you're a spent force, I'll put you out your misery.
Lucky for Howard, Sasha took the fall instead, getting eliminated in his place.
Sasha, you're at your depth on that dish because it doesn't taste nice at all.
But Howard's troubles were far from over. He had another epic fail in the second mystery box challenge.
Your station looks like a disaster. I'd hate to see you on the bottom here.
No, definitely not.
He thought he was serving up top-notch sashimi, but Chef Ramsay knew better. The fish was as raw as it gets, and not in a good way, obviously.
One home-cooked plated raw fish.
It's not raw fish. I was like, does someone do like sashimi or something?
I mean, it was a disaster waiting to happen. Chef Ramsay didn't even need to taste it to know it was a failure.
It's raw. It won't even separate.
Fish that don't separate properly? It's like Howard wasn't even trying. You can bet your bottom dollar that didn't go over well with the judges. And man, you won't believe what happened next. Joe didn't just give Howard a stern talking to, he took matters into his own hands and tossed Howard's dish straight into the trash.
And these kind of dishes are what send you home.
I mean, it was about time someone did something. But Howard didn't learn his lesson, and later in the season, he tried to redeem himself with his agnolotti.
I don't want to copy it, so I'm thinking of the ingredients that I use at home. Bell peppers and jalapenos, and I want to put my own twist on the pasta dish that Joe's mom showed us how to make today.
But things got spicy when he presented his dish, admitting his plating skills were subpar.
I'm 100% confident in the dish that I'm bringing up. The plating isn't that great, but hopefully the flavors come together.
He hoped his flavors would save the day, but Lydia wasn't having it.
So what is exactly this stuff?
Bell pepper, jalapeno, braised chicken, and then it's spiced with a little cumin.
Yeah.
She called out his dish for tasting like a peppermill explosion.
Get a good connection to the basics. Don't just fly off on a wing.
And then Joe stepped in, calling out Howard's cavalier attitude and accusing him of being clueless and making excuses.
I don't understand. She's been nice to you, but the whole thing with you is you have this very cavalier attitude.
But that's when Howard tried to defend himself, but Joe saw red.
The fact that you're not even thinking of playing this game properly is really annoying.
He accused him of arrogance, refusing to admit mistakes, and even called him a narcissist in denial. And, well, he was not wrong.
I'm gonna taste this.
You want 15 of the same dishes up here?
Talk about a verbal beatdown. Howard was served a plate of humble pie that day. But Howard didn't take Joe's criticism lying down. In his confessional, he fired back with some choice words for Joe and doubled down on his excuses, saying the competition was about flair and finesse, not just copying someone else's dish to win.
If you're here putting your spin on everything you make because you want to show us how cutesy and intelligent and crafty you are, well, that's going to get you a one-way ticket back to wherever you came from.
Damn, the guts. But in the end, Howard's lack of passion and denial spelled his culinary demise.
That really disappointed me and my fellow judges.
And let me tell you, the judges didn't go easy on him.
Howard, you've got this ignorance that you wouldn't absorb the kind of magic.
That was one humiliating elimination.
I got here, and I got an apron, and I got to compete. Thousands and thousands of people did it.
The judges saw right through his act, and his elimination was as surprising as a sunrise. Sometimes you just got to know when to hang up your apron and call it a day, right? Better luck next time, Howard.
Lynn's one of the top guys here. He's a better cook than I am, and he shows it with his plates. I got here, and I got an apron.
Now online, opinions are all over the place about Howard. Some think he should have been kicked off early, while others feel for the guy, saying he seemed like he was giving it his all but just couldn't keep up.
This is a competition about flair, about finesse, about creativity, not about copying someone else's so you can win $250,000.
And then there's the debate about Joe being harsh on him. It's a mix of people feeling sorry for Howard and others thinking he just wasn't cut out for the competition. But what do you think? Should Howard have been given more chances, or was it time for him to go? Let me know. Meanwhile, look at this next contestant from season 5, showed great determination and grit. But it was overshadowed by his obnoxious and loudmouth behavior. I'm talking about Cutter Brewer.
He's an ex-beautician house that works for his wife, so I think he's trying to prove his manhood or something.
And Leslie and Cutter's feud in MasterChef Season 5, Episode 15, is easily one of the most explosive and memorable clashes in the show's history. It was the race to the top 5, so tensions were high and the competition was heating up. The 6 remaining contestants were sent to the luxurious Sunset Marquee to prepare a 5-star dinner service under the supervision of Gordon Chef Ramsay and Graham Elliott, with Chef Ramsay expediting the orders.
In this challenge, you talented 6 home cooks will be taking the reins here at one of the finest restaurants in the country.
Jamie, the blue team captain, picked Christian and Courtney to join her, while Leslie captained the red team, choosing Elizabeth and being left with Cutter. Leslie's face immediately dropped when he realized he was stuck with Cutter. Because we all know how Cutter was right.
Cutter's not going to shut up because he can be very in your face, and that part I don't appreciate.
Leslie knew working with him would be a challenge, he just didn't know how bad it was about to get. Right from the get-go, things started to unravel. During the team discussion, Leslie took charge, assigning himself the steaks and mussels while delegating the mushrooms to Cutter. That was the first mistake. Cutter's ego took a massive hit. He was clearly offended. To make matters worse, Leslie also made Elizabeth the final plater, claiming she had a better eye for presentation. Cue the tantrum.
Final plater, because she has the better idea. No. Listen, do me a favor. Are you the captain or am I the captain? So please, stop now.
I'm trying to make this
stop
work
now.
smoothly, though.
I
Listen
understand.
His tantrums just won't stop, and Leslie had to keep reminding him that he was the captain, and they were gonna do things his way. While Cutter seemed to back down for the moment, you could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface, ready to explode. As soon as prep kicked off, Cutter's frustration hit a boiling point. He couldn't stand being bossed around by Leslie, and instead of focusing on the task, he let his ego take over, throwing childish personal jabs.
He's an ex-beautician house that works for his wife, so I think he's trying to prove his manhood or something.
Wow, those insults were just vicious and below the belt, and Leslie was visibly rattled, but he kept his composure. He had good reason not to trust Cutter. After all, the last time they worked together, Cutter had been a complete disaster. Leslie eventually tried to pull Cutter aside for a talk to calm the situation, but Cutter wasn't having any of it. He brushed Leslie off, refusing to listen, and Leslie finally snapped. He demanded that Cutter listen to him properly, but Cutter, ever the defiant one, retorted,
I'm not your kid, okay? First of all, you need to chill out and be a team leader and quit doing everything. We're a team, okay?
Yeah, sure, he wasn't his child, but maybe he forgot that Leslie was the team captain. Their shouting match escalated so much that Chef Ramsay had to intervene, telling them to get their act together because guests were already flooding into the restaurant, and the last thing anyone needed was more drama. For a brief moment, they managed to put their differences aside and focus on the task at hand, but this piece was short-lived. Cutter, still seething, took his personal attack to the next level.
Every team Leslie's been on, he's had an issue with somebody. He's a loser and he's a sad excuse of a man, so I just got to play his game and just get through it.
Ouch! Harsh words, even for the MasterChef kitchen where tensions often run high. Despite this hostility, the two somehow managed to pull off their individual tasks, and it seemed like they might actually finish the service without another blow-up. But of course, this is MasterChef, and things can never stay peaceful for long. As service continued, Cutter became increasingly agitated, feeling that Leslie wasn't giving him enough responsibility. He started shouting at Leslie yet again.
Let's get more steaks on. We can cook more than one order at a time.
Cutter, do me a favor. Shut up.
I've been in a restaurant.
All you're doing is yelling at me, trying to make
You
me
won't listen to.
Leslie, in turn, lost his patience, and the two clashed once more, causing Chef Ramsay to pull them both aside. This time, Chef Ramsay wasn't as calm. He gave them an ultimatum. Either pull it together, or they'd both be walking out the door. And just when you thought it's all over, the tension skyrockets. Here's the scoop on Monty, someone I've talked about in my earlier videos. You see, right before her auditions, Monty opened up about a piece of her life that seems straight out of a movie in Hollywood. A single mom from Los Angeles, also known as the City of Angels, facing all sorts of life challenges with her little 2-year-old son, Danger. Yep, you heard that right, Danger. Monty is counting on her son to love his unique name when he's older and hitting the books in college.
He's 2, his name is Danger. He's gonna love me for that later.
Now, Monty's journey hasn't been a cakewalk, let me tell you. She bid adieu to her job the moment little Danger arrived in her life, diving headfirst into the crazy whirlwind world of being a stay-at-home mom.
Right after I had the baby, to be a stay-at-home mom, it's been tough.
Monty navigates the hustle and bustle of Los Angeles, tending to motherhood and somehow finding time and strength to chase her dreams. It is the struggle and love, how much a mother's love can do. Now, she is no longer just any other participant. She is a warrior and a real-life superhero. That is exactly what makes her story so captivating, at a minimum. Monty's life might not be easy, but she's proven that she's got the grit to keep pushing forward. Monty really felt the squeeze financially, staring at her bank account, seeing only $50 treetops in her account. Can you believe it?
The opportunity to start over again and do something really amazing with my...
But here's the real shocker. Monty and her son Danger aren't living in luxury. Nope, they're squeezing into a tiny 400 square foot room. Despite their cramped living situation and money troubles, Monty wasn't giving up. She had big dreams and saw this audition as her big chance to change everything.
Welcome. First name?
My name's Monty.
Monty.
Monty Monte Carlo knew this was her moment, her chance to start fresh and create something amazing. She was ready to give it her all and show what she could do in the kitchen.
What are you cooking?
It's a Puerto Rican shepherd's pie.
Her ultimate dream? To own a food truck and share her culinary creations with the world. So, she rolled up her sleeves and got down to business. She wanted to inspire the judges with her culinary artistry.
There's a green plantain that's fried twice.
You got 5 minutes to blow us away.
She chose to make a Puerto Rican shepherd's pie, a dish that meant a lot to her. As she hustled in the kitchen, the judges watched her every move. The pressure was on. With only 5 minutes left on the clock, Monty pulled off a miracle in the kitchen.
So you're a single mum?
Yes, sir.
It was a true underdog story. Here she was, with hardly any money, living in a small room, and now she was making her culinary dreams come true. Monty's determination and passion for cooking shone through, and she gave it her all despite the odds. There was no time for chit-chat because she had a mission. Everything depended on her dish, a unique spin on traditional twice-fried green plantains.
I want a food truck.
You've got 1 minute left.
Oh my gosh.
This dish was her golden ticket to food truck fame. But it wasn't just about the meal, there was a lot more at stake.
We got no idea. You're running around from left to right. You've made me dizzy.
This is awful.
Just when it seemed she wasn't going to do it, Monty's nerves kicked into high drive. She did, however, manage to plate up her dish, but without the critical ingredient.
I didn't have time to finish my sauce that I was going to make with it, the mojo. I got a little nervous and all caught up.
Yeah, everything was in the dish except the sauce. There were different reactions as the judges tasted her creation.
It's a little sweet.
But Monty wasn't one to back down easily.
But I think it's pretty delicious.
For real?
It is.
Shut your mouth.
I swear.
How about that for a dramatic start, huh? Anyway, when Chef Ramsay stepped up, he wasn't as impressed as Graham.
Desperately needs a sauce because it's dry.
Still, this recipe was special. It had been passed down through generations and held a lot of sentimental value for Monty. Let's dish out the details on this dramatic cooking showdown. Picture this: Joe, not exactly sold on the recipe, isn't feeling the magic from Monty. When things start to get tense. Graham, though, he's all in. Easy. Yes, no hesitation. You could practically taste his enthusiasm during the tasting session. But hold up, Joe's got a nose for something fishy, not just in the dish, but in Monty's whole vibe. It's like he's got a sixth sense for insincerity, and he's calling it out. And then comes the big moment.
Son for a while because you got an apron. Congratulations. Well done. Oh my God.
Chef Ramsay, the ultimate judge, drops a bombshell that leaves Monty in tears. His decision? It's a game changer, and the emotions run high. So, did the recipe bring Monty closer to her dreams? Well, with Joe skeptical, Graham enthusiastic, and Chef Ramsay delivering the verdict. He was totally feeling the fire, seeing all that potential. And when he finally said yes, it was like sealing the deal for Monty, you know? Tears welled up in Monty's eyes when she found out she made it to the next round. Her big dream of owning a food truck was suddenly so close she could taste it. After the chaos in the kitchen settled down, Monty found herself thinking about her son, Danger. Winning the apron meant more than just a victory, it was a chance to build a brighter future for her little boy. And guess what? Monty didn't stop there. She may have won an apron, but she'd also won the chance to make a better life for her little boy. And guess what happened? Monty really nailed it in the end, climbing up to 5th place. She finished things off with style and energy. Now, moving on from a delightful moment to a controversial one. A common allegation against Joe is that he rarely tastes the food before tossing it in the bin.
You need to be listening to what we're telling you about what we're producing because...
Let's look at all the times he sent dishes flying into the bin. Like in Season 3, Episode 10. After winning the Mystery Box Challenge, Becky chose pizza stone as the core ingredient for the home cooks. David made smoked lobster with oven-roasted potatoes and bacon. The first, most important question Joe had was...
You know, watching you cook this, it's just a letdown.
Yes, Joe, believe it or not, you are paid to taste the dishes before judging. Now, watch carefully as he takes a spoonful of nothing.
We're gonna go from 11 down to 10.
He basically tasted the air in the verdict.
And this is what you bring? Go.
And wait till you see the closing act. Even Chef Ramsay knows this was too much. Look at his expressions. In the next episode of the same season, the theme for the elimination test was fish. Felix won the Mystery Box Challenge and assigned Tali the Arctic char as the core ingredient. He cooked it with green lentils. Fast forward tasting time when he tried to explain his dish.
That is a spicy crab creole with rice and some seafood broth.
Granted, Tali is delusional, but Joe, the tough guy act is honestly cringeworthy. He thinks he's Gordon Ramsay, but without authority, skills, or hair, it's his catchphrase. This is a waste of my time. As if he's doing it for free out of the sheer goodness in his heart to hone their talent. Now, it's time to review one of those moments that divides MasterChef fanbase the most.
Make a well here. There's 4 whole eggs and 5 egg yolks.
In the elimination test, the cooks had to make agnolotti after getting a demo from Joe's mom, Lydia Bastianich. While cooking, Joe asked Howard if he had much experience with pasta, and Howard admitted he didn't.
A lot of pasta at all, actually. San Diego's not really known for their Italian foods.
Howard decided to go with a braised chicken and bell pepper filling for his agnolotti. Lydia commented that bell peppers in pasta were unusual and encouraged Howard to taste it.
What's that? Pay attention, you know, we talk a lot about textures and all of that.
When Joe asked Howard what he would do with asparagus, Howard was at a loss.
I'm not sure yet.
Wow.
All right, good luck, Howard.
Thank you.
He was the 7th cook to present his agnolotti. He wasn't feeling too confident and was at least self-aware and honest.
Bell pepper, jalapeno, braised chicken.
He served bell pepper, jalapeno, and braised chicken-filled agnolotti spiced with cumin. Lydia noted that cumin isn't typically used in pasta and felt the dish was overwhelmed by the pepper, lacking harmony.
Appreciated time after time. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called classics.
Of course.
She also advised him on how to improve.
To the basics. Don't just fly off on a wing, okay?
This is how you say it if you don't like the dish. But then comes the trash man.
You have this very cavalier attitude don't know what you're cooking.
Howard was definitely out of his element, and his cupcakes were the only dish that could compete with the others. Sure, Joe might have felt defensive of his mother, and Howard could be a bit of a douche at times, but Joe didn't need to constantly tear him apart. It was unnecessarily harsh. MasterChef encourages inventiveness, and that's exactly what Howard, I think, was aiming for. Yeah, that infuriated Joe to no end. Please, Joe, pause and take a bite first. He continued explaining why Howard's dad hates him. You don't need to continue demeaning and kicking someone when they're already down. Even someone of the stature of Marco Pierre White, yes, the one who's dubbed the OG bad boy of cooking, has the patience to mentor the aspiring amateur chefs on MasterChef Australia. What are your thoughts on this? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. Meanwhile, let's head over to one of the worst teammates we've ever seen. So, after the first challenge in the 7th episode of Season 4, Beth, Natasha, Luca, and Kathy were all on thin ice. And just as you're waiting for the verdict, Chef Ramsay dropped the bomb.
Look after your children and continue to follow your dreams.
Just when it seems like they might all get axed, something crazy happened.
Come here.
Good night.
Yeah, they announced an epic, overly dramatic pressure test, MasterChef history in the making.
Get my dream.
Chiquita, you're back.
I'm proud of myself.
It was to stretch over a full extra episode in Vegas just to decide who would be going home among these 4. It was clear this was all part of the plan from the start, from a production standpoint, but I wonder what would have happened if only 2 flopped while 4 excelled. But anyway, this time, the 4 contestants in danger of elimination were led to a real restaurant.
This isn't just any Vegas restaurant.
It's mine.
Yes, it was Chef Ramsay's burger restaurant in Sin City in the Planet Hollywood complex.
We average about 860 burgers a night.
The restaurant shut down its usual service, handing over operations to the contestants. Graham explained that burger typically runs with 13 chefs, a head chef, 3 sous chefs, and 9 line cooks. However, it was just the 4 contestants in charge that night, even though they'll likely serve a limited number of guests. Chef Ramsay stepped into the role of expediter to keep things moving smoothly.
Which one has no future in this competition? We can all...
Next, the judges paired up the teams. Beth was paired with Natasha, while Luca teamed up with Kathy. It was clear Luca and Kathy had the edge here. Since Luca runs a restaurant, he kinda already knew how to make it work. The challenge gave them 1 hour for prep and 75 minutes for continuous service, focusing on creating a unique signature burger. Luca opted for an all-beef burger with caramelized onions and sauce, skipping the cheese. Kathy, however, fretted over America's cheese-on-burger obsession.
I don't agree because I feel every burger in town should be with cheese.
Now, Beth's vision was a mouth-watering hangover burger featuring Gruyere, crispy prosciutto, a sunny-side-up egg, and truffle aioli.
For a burger, we'll get some Gruyere, some crispy prosciutto, and a sunny-side-up egg with like a truffle aioli.
I mean, just hearing about it makes me hungry. It sounds absolutely incredible. Now, they had to worry about getting the patties and the eggs just right. However, Natasha had a strategic move. She was letting Beth take charge and make all the decisions. By stepping back from the leadership role right away, Natasha was setting herself up to avoid blame if their team loses.
Fault later in this competition, she's gonna take the blame because I'm just going along with what she thinks.
I mean, that's incredibly shrewd and cunning. Moving on, the judges decide to dive into the patty, the heart of any great burger.
Why would you need to put egg in the burger when you've got those 2 blends? I mean, using an amazing cut there, I never put eggs and bind them.
Chef Ramsay seemed overly concerned when Beth added egg to her patty mix, but that might just be for the cameras. After all, the egg adds richness, not a whole new flavor profile. Later, Chef Ramsay stepped in because it looked like they prioritized toppings over the patty itself.
Get that pate nailed now, before you do anything.
And it wasn't long before he predicted they were headed for a loss.
Someone's going home tonight. And right now, at this stage, it's one of you.
Yes, Chef.
By MasterChef logic, this means they'll actually win. It's funny how you can start predicting these outcomes once you start minutely observing how formulaic the editing is. However, both teams faced setbacks and had to adjust their plans on the fly. Luca sacrificed his sauce plans to assist Kathy with caramelizing onions, which, by the way, were falling way behind schedule.
I don't have time for the sauce. The burger is gonna go out like this.
Meanwhile, Beth and Natasha scrapped their sunny-side-up eggs due to difficulties, opting instead for goat cheese and arugula to complement their crispy prosciutto.
Cheese, arugula, and then the prosciutto. Exactly. Then I can focus more on the prosciutto and have it crispy.
Chef Ramsay also threw in a surprise rule as service kicked off. Once he called for an order and one team's dish was ready in the window, he'd wait no more than 60 seconds for the other team's dish before sending out the food.
We've now got 75 minutes of service.
Yes, Chef. Yes, Chef.
It added a layer of complexity for the teams, but since they were making identical plates repeatedly, it was simpler compared to the usual chaos in restaurant kitchens where different dishes from various stations must sync perfectly. At one point, Beth and Natasha had an order ready to go, but Kathy and Luca hadn't even started cooking their patties. They were still on the grill.
The window, order's gone.
Put the onion in, put the onion in.
Chef Ramsay started yelling at Luca as if that would magically speed up the cooking process.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Instead, it just left Luca feeling frustrated and powerless. In response, Luca plated rare burgers, which earned him another tongue lashing from Chef Ramsay.
It's still moving. It's that raw.
Careful, Chef Ramsay, your Hell's Kitchen vibe is showing. It was no walk in the park for Beth and Natasha's team either. They accidentally burned one of their buns in the salamander, and Chef Ramsay put a stop to everything just to give them an earful.
Around like this. Do you know what that tells me? You're out of control.
Sorry, Chef.
Meanwhile, Luca and Kathy's burgers kept coming back undercooked.
These burgers, oh no, are completely raw.
Raw, again.
As if things weren't tense enough, the VIPs arrived, who, by the way, were none other than the other contestants. Luca immediately decided to rush his orders to the window, leaving Beth and Natasha struggling to keep up within that tight 60-second window.
We're just blowing through the service for these last 12 burgers.
This tactic only worked for the final 4 burgers, automatically putting Natasha and Beth down by 4 votes. And finally, the results were in. Beth and Natasha ended up receiving the most votes, and they didn't specify how many burgers they cooked, but judging from the voting device, one side had about 30 chips and the other side just under 25 chips. Well, I guess they likely served between 50 to 60 burgers in total. Anyway, you wouldn't believe what Natasha said after winning.
Of course, I'm happy for the both of us or whatever. I'm more happy for myself.
Now, wait for it, what an awful attitude.
Blue team, congratulations.
Thank you, Chef.
Now, let's snap out of the negativity for a change and bring up something exciting. The challenge was set. 90 minutes to whip up a pasta dish from scratch. Fresh pasta is no walk in the park, and with 2 contestants on the chopping block, the pressure was on. Mike managed to shine with his fettuccine and roasted peppers. The dish wasn't just good, it caught Joe's attention in a big way. Joe, who's got pretty high standards when it comes to Italian food, said Mike's pasta was the only one that really impressed him.
This is the first one that's a complete pasta dish. From sauce to pasta.
The flavors were on point, and the execution was spot on.
I doubted it in its inception, I doubted it in its creation. On the plate, it blew me away.
In a sea of pasta attempts, Mike's dish stood out as a genuine hit. Jake and Tracy were eliminated, but I feel like Jake didn't deserve the chop. He was very consistent and had a bad day. But in episode 11, the contestants went head-to-head in a high-stakes cook-off, judged by some serious heavyweights in the food world. We're talking Jeffrey Steingarten, the then food editor for Vogue, Tanya Steele, the then food editor for Epicurious, and Barbara Fairchild, editor-in-chief of Bon Appetit. With this level of critique on the line, everyone was bringing their A game, or at least trying to. David decided to roll the dice with saffron butter sculpin paired with Palestinian couscous and roasted peppers. The catch?
Tastes as if you've cooked it 1,000 times. Amazing.
Yeah, he had never made it before. Talk about taking a risk. But against all odds, the judges were impressed with how well the fish was cooked, despite David not having enough time to give it the TLC it needed.
Okay, next up.
They couldn't believe how he pulled it off. Lee went for braised sculpin over fennel couscous with broth, and the judges were absolutely blown away.
I mean, it's cooked by an angel. The vegetable's delicious. It works.
They loved everything about it, from the flavors to the presentation. But in the end, it was David who stole the show. His dish scored an impressive 11.5 out of 12, making it the best dish of the night. It was a total hit and a big win for David. Sharon was eliminated that night, which again makes me hate how MasterChef really didn't value consistency. In the final showdown between Whitney and David, each cook had to prepare their best dishes, an appetizer, entree, and dessert. Whitney's menu featured a corn cake with black-eyed pea puree and shrimp, country fried chicken on collard greens, and white chocolate bread pudding. David's choices were scallop ceviche with pea soup, beef Wellington, and a nectarine crepe. David's selection seemed like a nod to Gordon's favorites, but this might have been a risky strategy. During the judging, David's ceviche was criticized for being too spicy, while Whitney's shrimp was undercooked, but her dish was praised for elevating Southern cuisine. David's beef Wellington was well cooked, but not perfect, causing him to tear up, while Whitney's chicken, miraculously cooked through, received high praise. David's nectarine crepe was a hit, but Whitney's souffle, though sophisticated, confused Gordon with its presentation. Now you remember Josh Marks from season 3 of MasterChef, don't you?
Be the key to winning the MasterChef title.
Oh yeah, he was undoubtedly the gentle giant with a heart of gold. What's more, he had a passion for cooking that won over everyone's hearts.
Who taught you how to make that?
Me, I did it myself. This is all me, straight from the heart.
Despite being a self-taught cook, he made a lasting impression with his kind spirit and infectious smile.
With everything, it's gonna be all right. Just touch somebody, look them in the face.
Even though he didn't take home the top prize in 2012, he was showered with praise and everyone was rooting for him to do great things. Josh himself was determined to make his dreams a reality, telling the camera that he'd never give up on his culinary aspirations. Such an inspiring guy, I tell you. Well, sadly, his life took a really dark turn after the show. He started struggling with panic attacks, hearing voices, and eventually got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then things got even worse. He had a really disturbing encounter with the police, claiming that Gordon Ramsay had possessed him and declared him God. Can you believe it? Josh later ended up in jail for weeks with a broken jaw, and the media just went to town on the story without realizing the poor guy was going through a mental health crisis. After that, he got treatment, but unfortunately, his struggles continued, and he eventually got diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. It's just so tragic that his mother found him deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Although his family doesn't blame MasterChef for what happened, it's a really sad reminder that mental health is often overlooked. Josh was a literal angel, and he didn't deserve the stuff he had to go through. But this next contestant? Oh, she was a hurricane in disguise. Yeah, I'm talking about Chrissy Biasiello, the MasterChef contestant from Philly. And according to latest reports, the Philadelphia Daily News just exposed some really offensive tweets she made in the past. Apparently, she used the N-word in one tweet and made a racist ape joke in another. Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. But not really hard to believe considering her shitty behavior on the show.
I'm gonna take this hot pan and smash it in her face.